We have quite a few folks from down under as well. So good to see that you are here today. And I've got the Chat GPT. I was trying to get it to create a flashing light, but on a JPEG, but this morning on a GIF, but it wouldn't work. So I've given up on that. Right, danger, 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 danger all round. Really is the theme for today. I had an email from a member who was a little shocked to find that his stop had got jumped on the CAD yen on Monday morning, Sunday night when the markets opened. And this is a perfect example of why we tell you all the time, do not leave orders in over the weekend. I know I do it a lot on here because this is just for teaching, but in the real world you don't, because I think from what the chap was saying, I think it probably meant that he was taken out on his funded account. And so that was an expensive mistake for him, because what happened here is why we don't leave trades open over the week, or certainly not forward orders over the weekend, because he had an order in to buy here and his order got filled somewhere up here, but he had a stop here. So he was basically in and out and lost. And I think he's out of a funded account as well. And it can be a very, very expensive mistake. If, for example, somebody had an order here to go short, to go short, they would have got filled up here. And again, if their stop was here, it would have jumped over the whole lot. So do not leave trades open over a weekend, and that is a perfect example for it. Another thing, I was talking to a client the other day, and it kind of made me realize I think most people or many people do not know this. This, for example, is a pound New Zealand. This is a cross pair. What does anybody know how the price of a cross pair is arrived at? You've got the pound is versus the US dollar. You have the euro against the US dollar against the Swiss franc. But the cross pairs, anybody know how this price, this figure is arrived at? And Kaylin says, hi, Mike, originally from London, but living in China. Well, that's different. And welcome to you. So anybody know? Stick it in the chat box if you know how the figure is arrived at. For example, the euro pound is another example. All these cross pairs are examples. Nobody? Okay. What you have to do is the pound New Zealand, to arrive at this price, you have to divide the first figure, the pound, at 13439, and divide it by the price of the New Zealand dollar. And when you do that calculation, it works out at 231. Yes, I just did it, and it does work. So the point is, these cross pairs are not pure pairs. So if you are trading the pound New Zealand dollar, you are actually trading the pound against the dollar and the New Zealand dollar against the dollar. And therefore, there's three parts of the equation going on here, and you need to pay attention to all three parts. The thing that always amazes me with this, I have no idea how it works mathematically, and I'm not going to waste a minute of my time trying to work it out. But for example, the euro pound has a habit of stopping to the pip at whole numbers or bouncing off a 78.6 fib. So if this is not a pure pair and this is not what's going on here, it's what's going on the pound and the euro. If anybody would like to explain that one to me, write a book. I have no idea what it does it, but I do know that with the euro pound, it tends to stop to the pip at whole numbers more time than not on the daily chart. So it's really strange, but the more I realize teaching folks is that they don't know what's going on. And it's really important that you understand the basics of what's going on. So again, if you're trading the euro against the pound, well, it's a little bit easier there with them both being prime pairs. But if you're trading the pound, as I just explained, against the New Zealand dollar, you have to look at the charts for all three, and you have to look at the news for all three, because suddenly something could come out that will kickstart it, and it could just be straightforward dollar related. Alexi said, I was in the euro yen from the very bottom of the swing, had it in at 1 hour and profit on Friday, moved the stop to break even and left it over the weekend. On Saturday, I remembered that the party election was this Sunday. Glad I was long, I had a far win, but it does feel wrong. Yeah, you got lucky. And that's all it is, because of course the other thing is, if you realize over the weekend it's wrong, you can't go in and change it either. So even if you suddenly realize that the Japanese elections were coming out, you would not have been able to change it. So do not leave them over the weekend. And the other thing is, with the things like the pound New Zealand, I think on the pound Aussie, I'm right in saying I have seen the spreads widen on the weekend on the pound Aussie up to 80 or 90 pips. And again, you would have the same scenario. You would get filled, or your stop would get jumped by a huge amount. So general thing is, don't do it. With the majors, if I'm 50, 60, 70, 80 pips these days in front on a trade, and I will take off perhaps 75%, and then I might leave the balance to run. If I feel that it's got a real possibility to keep going, for example, with gold, if I had been in here and I was convinced it was keep going, but the weekend was up, I could have taken off a chunk of the profit, moved the stop to protect it, and then let the balance run. But only if you've got a significant amount of profit, because of the reasons I've just said. And the second, I'm going to go through the fundamentals, but in the meantime, I'll have a quick whiz through some possible N2 trades. And Murphy's Law, that was going to be one of the best of the week for a short here on the CAD yen. And then, of course, the news has come out, and that's what killed it. And there's a lot going on at the moment around the world, more so than ever. And you have to start and keep paying attention to what is going on fundamentally. Now, once a 78.6 fib breaks, then for me, this is a reversal. And therefore, this fib movement down now has gone. And now I would need to start fibbing in a northerly direction, because it's 78.6 fib. But that short would have been a great trade. This actually wouldn't be a bad trade now, but it may be yesterday was an overreaction. So we'll wait and see. But if we get a pullback into here, what is this trend line doing? If we get pulled back into there, then we might decide to go long in the next day or two. And in fact, if it came down here today, that would be a 130 pip move. The average is 66. And even yesterday's extraordinary move, well, the candlestick moved 130, but the actual gap means it really moved 200 and odd. But for that, yeah, I might go long now. And this is the other thing is, if you are in a trade and it loses, but then the pattern changes and we get a significant break higher and you flip the fib around, then you could have been under normal circumstances, you could have been in a trade here, you've had a 30 pip loss and it's turned round. Now you get into the trade going north with a 30 pip and it wins, and you will be in profit as long as you are aiming for more than twice what you risk every time as well. So that, in this instance, it's such a severe jolt. But remember, this is the Canadian dollar against the US dollar, and it is the dollar against the yen. So pay attention to both and keep your eye on what's going on in Japan and what's going on in the Japanese stock markets as well as. Now, potential trades. It's not been easy of late, and a lot of this is to do with Trump and the tariffs and what's going on fundamentally as well as. But I was showing somebody as well the other day, when you look, zoom out, and this is why we start on the longer time frames. On a weekly chart, this is fairly straightforward with the dollar. For the last 10 weeks, it has bounced repeatedly off this top line, and it has bounced repeatedly off the bottom line. And yes, it's spiked through on a number of occasions, and one particular one. But in general, the principle would be, had you longed here, longed here, longed here, longed here, longed here, and longed here, you may have had one, well, you definitely would have had one loss there. And depending on your stop on this one, you may have had a loss there. But you would have had 7 wins, 8 wins to 2. And equally, from going short, you would have had 1, 2, 3, 4 wins, 5 wins, and no losses so far. So keep your eye on the big picture all the time. And so, for example, if you are going to short the US dollar Swissy and the dollar index is coming up to here, that would give you a bit more confirmation that the dollar Swissy is probably going to bounce down, which is why I have this order in again. And this was the order, if you recall, the other week. It's in my blog, in the Forex blog. I showed it was a perfect setup for multiple reasons. It had 9 reasons to take this trade. Well, if this gets up here today, that will be a 58 pip move. The average is 52. But also when it gets up there, because it's highly correlated with the dollar index, you've got the added impetus of the dollar index in your favor. And the other thing that you can be doing when you're looking at that, you say, okay, if that gets up to there and the euro gets down to a significant level, and that's moved again, then that could give me added impetus on that. And when you look at this, there's clearly something being going on here with the euro Swissy. Sorry, with the euro USD. So I'll have a look at everything in a moment on the rest of the market. I mean, it was bizarre yesterday, and it's still bizarre. We have the stock markets at all-time highs. We have gold and silver, gold at all-time highs, silver almost back at its all-time high, and Bitcoin all-time high, all on the same day. And I had a sea of green yesterday. It was brilliant. Everything in my portfolio was green and everything was going up. And the temptation is to, woohoo, here we go. And I'm thinking now this is getting very dangerous. And at some point, there's going to be, at the very least, some pullbacks. So I'm going to cover that subject as well in a little while. And this is gold, as I said, it almost touched 4,000 the other day. And I said to you, when it was down here, the logical target for this would be for it to stop at 4,000 because there's going to be a lot of profit taking. Now, personally, I'm not selling the gold. I have been accumulating gold since 2021, and I shared it with you here when we were down at 1,800. And I have been accumulating gold mining stocks since 2022, and they are up significantly as well. And I did trim some profit out of them the other day because some of them are up 200-300%, and I need cash in case we get a crash. So we'll have a look at that in a moment as well. This is silver. I have twice as much silver as gold. I explained in 2021 why I was buying it at $17 an ounce. So that has made significant gains as well. And on top of which, my silver miners have made significantly more. Oil, don't touch oil. Do not trade oil. At the best of times, it is not easy. But at the moment, with geopolitics, I can't remember what that was, but that will have been something somebody said. And you've got Trump, you've got Iran that's gone quiet now, you've got Israel, you've got Ukraine, you've got Russia. At any moment, any piece of news can come out and this could shoot up that away or that away, in which case you are just gambling. And it's one of those as well that can jump. It can jump stops and jump everything. And it may not look it here on a daily chart, but if you go down to smaller time frames, you will see sometimes it will jump. So don't do it. Now, I just said Bitcoin. Now, with Bitcoin, I was telling folks, well, those of you who joined me in this in 2020, we were buying it at 8,000. But even this year, I have said to you, I was buying again at 76,500. And I also bought at 108 the other week. And I also explained that to you as well. So we're in, for me, in a bull market still for crypto. Forex is not easy. And the other option you've got with Forex is, for example, this is the AUD on a weekly. Well, on a weekly, the key areas of interest, the best area of interest for me here is here. And that would even be an A grade setup on a weekly chart because you've got 61.8 fib, you've got the whole number, the 55 EMA, trend line in an uptrend. And again, if this comes back down to here, then have a look at what the dollar index is doing. So that would be the perfect setup. But it's, well, having said that, it's 130 pips away. So it's 3 days movement. But if you go down to a 4 hour, have a look at the structure. And what's clearly going on here on a 4 hour chart is we have got, similar to what I've just shown you with the dollar index, you could have the line here if you want to be conservative. Let's go on the 200 EMA. Or you could have the line here. But either way, there is this is what it's doing. It's selling off there and it's buying in here. So the buyers are clearly waiting here. And clearly the buyers were waiting there. It spiked all the way down, fingers in the fire, and off it went again. So if you can't find things on the weeklies and the dailies, then go down to a 4 hour. Again, on the Euro USD on a weekly, the only thing that this is telling us really, we're in an uptrend. We rejected here. And I said to you the other month, don't be in a rush to buy the euro up here because it's massive major previous support and resistance going back years. And the probability of it rejecting here was greater than not. And what did it do? Almost to the pit, it rejected off 1.1908. So the whole number, massive previous resistance in 2021. And I showed you all this before. And I mean, even in here in 2020, it was massive resistance as well. And there it was support. This is weekly charts. So again, that should have kept you out of a losing long here because the logic of it is if it bounced off there numerous times in the past on a weekly, it's probably going to do it again. Now here on a daily, it's still messy for me. I wouldn't personally be interested in this, but Ashley did have a good trade on it using his intraday method, and I think he shared it in the forum, and I'm sure he's going to show you it in a little while. So pound at the moment on a weekly, we can see it's in a triangle pattern. It's getting nearer to the point, and the nearer the price gets to the point on the triangle, you could either be there or you could be here. But the nearer we get to the point, the more likely it is to make an explosive move. So then you would go back down to the daily, which I've left down here. But again, just be patient, zoom out, and if not, have a look at what Ashley's doing. Now, this is euro pound. I've shown you this before. This is splitting a trade in half. My preferred area would be down here, but the probability intraday of it getting down there, this is only doing 30 pips a day, which is insane. So 30 pips here, I have the 55 EMA, I've got the trend line, I've got the 61.8 fib, I've got previous major support and resistance. You could be more conservative and put your stop lower down below the 78.6 fib. But here I've got a risk reward. I'm risking 15 for a potential 80. So again, you don't need many winners if you're going to win 4 or 5 times your risk. If it comes back down and goes further, remember, until it breaks and closes below 78.6 fib, I still think this is going up. So on that basis, and that needs to go up just a fraction, on that basis, if it comes down here, spikes into here and bounces back off again, I have a small stop, 20 pips below this monthly 200 EMA. You could be more conservative and go under the whole number if you wanted, but I'm just going to wait for it to come to me. USD CAD. The USD CAD on a weekly is now clearly has started in an up channel, and it's now been going on for 3 months. On a daily, I have now fibbed it because it broke 78.6 fib on the down move. I've now fibbed it going up. And again, this is one where I have an entry here and I couldn't decide whether to go here. I think the best thing to do with this, actually, I am going to split it. So I'll put half here with a 23 pip stop, and I will put the other half down here as I've got on here with a 60 pip stop. So it basically means this part of the trade, the lot size will be twice the size of that one. And here, I now need to readjust that one. I'm thinking pull back into here, fibs, 2 EMAs, major previous support and resistance in an uptrend at a time of dollar weakness, then that would be a long for me. Having said that, there's things going on in Europe at the moment, which mean we may get the breakout on the dollar. This was all to do with the Japanese new prime minister, and she's got a different financial outlook than the rest of them have been, and the markets don't like it, and therefore the yen weakened and sold off. And pound CAD, I don't like it, and it's miles away from anything. So just let me get a sip of my tea. As ever, read Mark to Market. It's a 5-minute read and it goes all around the forex world. Really good articles, very well written and easy for the man in the street to understand. AUD, I've just shown you the AUD, and that was an area that was the area of interest for that one. So this is what I look at every day. So every day I'm looking on here to see whether we are in a risk off environment or a risk on. And if we're in a risk off environment, what do we expect to be going up? What asset class goes up in a risk off environment? Somebody put it in the box. Well done, Brendan. Fastest finger there. Brendan says gold, and he's quite right. So the way, the rationale of all this is when people are scared and investors are scared and they think that everything's going to turn to the messy stuff, they put money into gold. So normally when I look at this on a morning, I can see money's flowing into gold. It's flowing out of crypto because crypto is risk on and the stock market is risk on to a lesser degree. And so in a risk on environment, investors are willing to put money into riskier assets because they think things are going great. And so this was what was so bizarre yesterday. There was virtually a sea of green for me with my stocks, with gold and with crypto, all making all-time highs. It was and is very, very strange. Bitcoin has managed to hold above the previous high. And yesterday we got up to 126, 125 something. Again, hope it keeps going. This was my most recent buy at 108. These were previously where I had suggested areas to consider to buy. So this was the one, and we're only talking 6 months ago here. In April, I said I was buying at 76 and a half, and then in May at 92, and then here at 108. And again, I've been through with this with you a squillion times, and you can go back through my blog and read all about it, going back years and years for the reasons why. Ethereum, I said the other week to my investing group that 3,950 would be an area to consider for a buy for Ethereum. And again, that is up in the last week and a half, is up 20%. I think that Ethereum has the potential to go to maybe 10,000 is my personal thought, not financial advice. So for me, this was a good buy on Ethereum. Bitcoin versus Ethereum. So I'm always looking to see what's happening here. You go through periods when Bitcoin's in the ascendancy and Ethereum is down. And we've had a period of Bitcoin dropping against Ethereum. Now it's consolidating, not really telling me too much. And again, Solana, I had said to folks I would be buying again at 160 and I was buying again at 180. And once again, we are up. And again, if you're in the investing group, we were buying this down at 50 bucks not that long ago. XLM made a bit of a move yesterday. This is the one that shot up in November when Trump was elected, and this was the one again from the investing group, and I showed with you guys up 550%. I also bought some more XRP the other day, started buying this at 5 cents 5 years ago. There's a lot going on in the background with XRP, and I decided I would buy a bit more. MicroStrategy, my best stock of all time, was up 1400% from 2023 until its peak in the November. I have bought some high yield MicroStrategy related ETFs yesterday. So again, I do think that MicroStrategy will continue to go up. And based on the fact that they own more Bitcoin than anybody in the world, and they are buying it on a daily basis almost. HBAR, another one of my big ones. So all of this yesterday was up, up, up. My stock portfolio, again, I think everything on here, literally every single thing was green. It's not normal, isn't this? And I shared with you previously the account I set up for a friend of mine in May of this year. And I was talking to him last night. He he said, I'm going to sell a house and I'm going to give you the money. And I said, he's up 85% in 4 months, May, June, July, August, 5 months. He's up 85%. And I said to him, no, you're not going to sell the house to buy more crypto because this has been an extraordinary year. I think my personal account since the start of the year, I think he's up over 150% now. I normally look on a 50% gain as being a good year. This is insane at the moment. And what you've got to be so careful of is that it doesn't all flip around and suddenly drop significantly. Having said that, I took some profit on some miners. I took some on AG last week. AG, even from August, was up 140%, and we'd originally bought this down here, so it's up 180% since 18 months ago. But I'd taken some profit on some of these, and I took some profit on this the other week here because we'd had some previous major support and resistance, and I've got another line up here now, and that's where it seems to be heading. If everything turns to the messy stuff, then I still anticipate gold and silver will be the thing to be in. But in 2008, when the stock market came down 60%, gold did come down 30%. It did recover within a year and then tripled. But you're still going to be mindful. You either consider going to cash and selling everything, or you have some exposure to gold. And I was explaining the other day, I got too much exposure to gold because everything's gone up so much. I was having to rebalance and I was taking out and put some into cash because I need cash in case everything comes down because then I want to buy. And what the public generally tend to do, if it comes screaming down, they all run around with their hair on fire and they sell everything. Whereas those that are more experienced are sat here waiting and saying, hey, If this comes down here, this will be a heck of a bargain. And this is why it's better for you to plan in advance. So quite a few of the mining stocks, I took some profit off. My circumstances may well be different to your circumstances. I'm not taking too much off because I am having to pay tax on this. And this year, until the end of December, I am having to pay more than I envisaged. So I'm not in a rush to sell things, but I do need some cash. If you're in a tax-free account, then you could decide to take a chunk out now and then hope it's going to drop and buy more later. And this is Heckler Mining. And again, I said this to all of you back in May. Look, the directors are buying at $4.80. The directors know what's going on in this company. If they're willing to put money in, and they were spending quite a bit, then hey, if ever you want the signal of which way the stock is going to go, is look at when the directors are buying, and a lot of them were buying. So that's up 160%. My issue at the minute is I'm going to have to pay tax. If you're not, if you're in a tax-free account, then you might decide to sell half of it now because you're up 130% in 4 months anyway, and then hope that it's going to come back down. And as we know, gaps usually fill. This one hasn't filled at the minute, and it could take forever, but gaps usually fill. So think about taking some out. I mean, the main thing to say is if you've got money in the stock market, is make sure you've got some cash in case we get the crash. So those are the mining stocks that have done really well. This is the cannabis one I told you about last week. So the Trump is looking at legalizing medical marijuana, and it affects, I explained this last week, it affects the companies who produce significantly because at the moment they are taxed on everything and they're not allowed to claim much in expenses, even for staff, I believe. So at the moment, they're not making any money. But suddenly, if Trump then deregulates and changes the classification for cannabis, these companies could make a significant amount of money. So I am in now all of these, highly speculative, high risk. This one I have the most in, and I have taken some profit out, and I have taken my initial stake out, and I bought a lot of options on this. So options contracts give you the right to buy 100 stocks, and I was buying options here, here, and most recently bought in here. This was a 78.6 fib pullback in an uptrend with a 55 EMA and previous support and resistance in a sector that if Trump gives the go ahead, and it seems likely because now there's a financial report out saying that this could save the American health service 50 billion a year, or some insane figure they've come up with. So not financial advice, highly risky. I and my clients have made a lot of money out of this so far, and what we've got left, we're going to let it run. Now, the first point for considering take profit would be somewhere around 780, which is from October last year. So 12 months ago, this is where the price was. And then after that, if I let it run any further, because we could get a crazy spike on this, is what we're hoping, those of us who are in it. I think I have a take profit set at 10. So if it gets up to 10, then I'm going to be out of everything. But with 100 shares per option, that could be a significant win for the Walton family. And talking of Walton family and what's going on in the markets as well, one of the other big things to consider is the Walton indicator. Can anybody remember what the Walton indicator signifies while I go through some more stuff?
Need to buy a holiday, Mark. That's what
I'm
it is.
going on Wednesday. When I am on holiday, it tends to be that the crypto markets go nuts. And 4 or 5 times now, when I have gone on holiday and I am away from my computer, the first time was the crash in 2021 when everything came tumbling down. I was halfway up a mountain in Gran Canaria with no internet and didn't find out till 3 hours later when I got back. But no, 3 or 4 times I've gone on holiday, and sod's law, when I do go on holiday, everything kicks off. Other things that are going on at the moment, you've got in chaos in France. Macron, the highly unpopular president, had appointed a new guy to be his prime minister 28 days ago, and he's now quit. And France is in a meltdown at the moment, and they've got a lot of social problems as well as political problems. And that's not good for the euro because France is one of the major partners. What is going on at the moment is money has been flowing back into emerging markets. And I've been saying the last month or two, the downside with owning American stocks at the moment is that the dollar is down against the euro this year, 8, 9%, and against the pound. So for those of us from this side of the world investing in US stocks, they've got to make at least 10% to make up for the currency depreciation, which is something that you wouldn't normally have to pay too much attention to. Then part of the reason why I am not selling my silver stocks, I do anticipate there will be some take profit at $50, 49.90, which is where it got to in 2011, 12. I am not going to sell the silver. A, I don't want to pay tax on it. And B, the reason I was buying it is still the same. The demand for silver is going through the roof. Now with solar panels on top of phones, computers, and electric cars, and there ain't enough of it. And I explained last week, it costs $1 billion and takes 10 years to open a new mine. And BHP, one of the biggest miners, says that the political interference is threatening mining deals, i.e., it's very difficult and very expensive to open a new one, and therefore the existing ones have to produce more as much as possible, and therefore the price should go up because of supply and demand, and therefore I am not selling, and that's part of the puzzle for me with that one. Other things that are going on at the moment, I look every day. This is the Telegraph, supposedly a right-wing paper, but it's not really. Falling property prices in the UK and particularly in London. And this is partly to do with the government are broke and they've got into a bigger financial mess than what they inherited, significantly worse. And they're now going to start taxing people on private house sales, which has not been a thing in the UK in the past because you don't pay tax on the sale of your own property. And they appear to be going after London-based people as well. So that's all getting very messy. So people are either not selling or having to cut prices to sell. Then Julian sent this to me the other day. I am not selling my Bitcoin. I think that Bitcoin could keep going. And as Ashley said in here somewhere, experts predict, well, always a bit wary when experts predict is the phrase, 200,000 for Bitcoin and 10K for ETH by year end. Well, I actually said at the start of last year when Bitcoin was around 50, 48, I said that I thought it would go to 100, and it did. And so I got it right. And that was in 9 or 10 months. This year, I said 165,000. And then when I was pushed in a podcast, they said, okay, let's say 200. At the minute, you might think, well, that's not going to work this year. But the big surge last year was back end of the year on Bitcoin. So it could well be I still get to be right. But I think overall, for me, the overall direction, I still expect it to go up. A lot going on with Ethereum, which is why I've been buying Galaxy shares. Galaxy have created a treasury for Ethereum. And again, with the investing group, said this was an M2 breakout. But again, it was for fundamental reasons as well. Up 60% in a month. Not bad on a share, is it? Mara is the other one, is one I shared with you here the other week. And I said in the live training session, I would be a buyer at 15.30. And I explained in this case, it hadn't broke the EMAs, so the more conservative entry was here. But I was explaining that this to me was a consolidation zone. Mara own the strategy. Sorry, Mara is a Bitcoin miner, but they are mining Bitcoin at around $50,000 cost and selling them at 125 today. And therefore they are managing to hold on to it. When the cost of mining is greater than the cost of the Bitcoin, they end up having to sell everything that they produce to pay the overhead. Now they're able to accumulate, and therefore I said that to you in the thing. It was a month ago. If you want to go have a look back, and Ashley was updating this in the forum. That's up 33%, and you heard about it here. Coinbase, another one. I said I would be a buyer again at 300. And that was a month ago, and that is up 33% as well. So all of this lot has gone nuts, and all of that is tied to Bitcoin. And this is what Julian was sent me. So we know strategy is MicroStrategy is the holder of the most Bitcoin, and we know that they're still feverishly buying. So this is Strategy's page, and I think they bought again at the weekend. So purchases, 29th, oh, the 29th. So last week they bought another 196 at an average cost of 113,000, and they now hold 640 billion, is it? I always get confused with the notes, but
640,000.
yeah, but 640,000 Bitcoin, yeah, but the value is not showing there. The value is on the front page. So that's what this is about. So we know that Strategy is the biggest holder of Bitcoin here. Oh, it's there. What its value is 47 billion. Uh, so for that, and that's them. We know about them. The US government allegedly hold 198,000. If they do, it's what's been seized over the years. The same with China and the same with the UK, because the UK government dipshits haven't spent a penny on any crypto, and they're still dragging their heels on trying to stop people buying it. John's with us today, and John's not skint, and he has so much trouble trying to put a little bits of money into Coinbase and things because A, the government in the UK and the banks don't want you to send it, and B, Coinbase really can't be bothered with the aggro of dealing with Brits. So then you got Mara. I've just shown you Mara. They're the fifth largest holder. So they're making the stuff and they're holding on to it. But this is what Julian sent. And I knew lots of countries were doing it. North Korea, that'll be what they've nicked off everybody. Clean Spark is another one of our stocks. Coinbase is one of our stocks. I even did a high yield yesterday for a Tesla related thing, even though I'm not convinced with Tesla. United Arab Emirates. So governments are starting to accrue Bitcoin as a treasury. And I spoke last week and showed you how the CEO of Coinbase in America was talking about the US government creating a treasury, which Trump has hinted at in the past. And if they do, he reckoned all of the G20 countries would do it, probably apart from the British, who are stupid. But this is what, and this one here, McW&x, no, there's a Japanese company somewhere, hotel chain. They're trying to become the second biggest holder of Bitcoin at the moment as well. And El Salvador in there as well. So all of this lot are accruing Bitcoin.
I'm
And the
surprised
only,
Bhutan is on there.
um,
It was up there.
yeah, I don't know enough about Bhutan to know, to be honest. So, but anyway, that's what's going on. All of this lot are accumulating it. I am not selling any of it. We don't need to look at that. Okay, this is an update with my friend Andy's account. Been showing you this each week with his permission. So this is the stocks he owns. Sold a few yesterday, and actually I was going to sell some Rolls Royce today, but I think it was Seals, Laes. I sold yesterday. Investors, I sent it out on the Telegram. But here we have crypto, mining, gold mining, silver mining, quantum computing, silver mining, Bitcoin mining, quantum computing, Google, a little bit what's left from having taken profit, another Bitcoin related, this one's Bitcoin related, Bitcoin, uh, rare earth metals, new crypto that's going to be to tokenize gold, rare earth, American healthcare, a bit of Amazon left. JD bought that last week, which is a Chinese stock. I missed a lot of the Chinese growth. And then MicroStrategy, Andy didn't get in. All of this we got in starting on the 6th of May. And as of today, his overall balance on this account is 36,970. And this is a tax-free account in the UK called an ISA. And I showed you before, rather than me digging around in here now, I showed you the proof in the history file in the previous session. He put the £20,000 in on the 6th of May this year. So if you close everything now, that stands at 37,000, which is 85% profit in 5 months. Okay. Adam says, I read that the Bhutan government mines their own Bitcoin with hydropower. Oh, well, that makes sense. Right, what else have we got in here? Mark, when you say you expect a stock to last at least, oh, when you actually, sorry, put my teeth in. Alexei from Japan says, Mark, when you say you expect a stock to at least have a 25 potential growth when you buy, do you do anything at that mark when it reaches it? Do you do a partial close? Personally, at the moment, Alexei, I haven't been doing it generally because of my tax situation. But as of January, I will start trading stocks because this year the my classification for tax has changed. So basically, they're trying to make tax my income from trading and investing as income instead of as investing. So instead of paying 28% capital gains tax, they're talking about charging me 48% tax. So I can afford for the whole lot to come down 48% and be no worse off than if I sell it. Within here, with this being a tax-free account, then I am more able to manage it by buying and selling. I have an issue with this one of Andy's at the moment, though. He's only got £700 left in cash because everything else we're fully allocated here. So I need to start trimming some of these. Coinbase, you put 5 grand in, maybe five and a half, and it's now 3,000 profits. So you can see the profits in here. Don't really want to sell them, but ultimately, I said to him last night, we went out for a meal, and about 6 weeks ago, his account was up 50%. And I said, do you want a stick or do you want a twist? And he has a tattoo on his arm of a poker card, and I'd never really noticed it before. And he said, well, I do like a bit of a gamble. I said, well, you're now up 85%. And for the previous 10 years, he had money in a Barclays cash ISA in the UK that was netting him 3.5% a year. So he's made more in 5 months than he would have made in the previous 25 years doing it the old way. But at some point, this will come down. And therefore, what people have to be really careful with, which is why I started with this, don't just think this is all going to keep going on forever. Because believe me, I lived through this in the dot-com boom, and it's very painful to watch it all come back down. And you've got to be so careful because everybody's so excited, those of us that are in all this stuff, that hey, but equally as well, most of the stuff I've got is what I have been accumulating over the last 4 or 5 years and the knowledge that I've been sharing with you lot. Um, so, in answer to your question, Alexi, at the moment, no. What I am thinking doing in the new year is to trade stocks, and therefore, yes, I will be looking at 25%. But what I tend to do with this stuff, if stuff goes up significantly, so this was my riot buy in July, and then I bought some more down here in August. So I'm cost averaged in here. We're up 69% now. So again, I always look to the left. Well, there was something going on here. What I might do, what I try to do when something goes nuts, so crypto is the best example. When crypto goes nuts, let's have a look at Solana at the moment. So I was buying Solana back in the summer at 118, and as of the other week, we were up 110%. Well, at that point, I would be thinking about taking out the stake or some of the stake. So let's say for every thousand, I've put 1,000 in, it's now at 2,000. Then I would take out 700 if I think it's going to keep going, because now my risk is only 300, and what I've got left is bought and paid for. Or I might take out when it doubles and triples. So I showed you this one earlier. This is the one that went up 500% in 3 weeks. But then when this was going up, I was saying to the investing group, look, it's doubled, it's tripled. When it's doubled, take your stake out because this will not keep going forever. When it got to 300%, for crying out loud, take your stake out. When it got to 500%, well, if you don't take the stake out and some profit, you deserve all that's coming. And what did it do? It tumbled all the way back down. So then I was out. I used the cash from this one, I think it was, to buy the Bitcoin at 108,000. So in my mind, the Bitcoin I bought was free. So that's the way I do it. But I'm not interested in, I've been subscribing to various tip sheets for stock trading because I've never really traded stocks. And they're buying and selling and making 4s and 5% and going, woohoo! I'm not in it for 4 or 5%. I don't see the point. I want to catch a big one, is my philosophy. Brendan says, do you think there are any prerequisites to what happened prior to the dot-com bubble? Yeah, exactly where we are now, Brendan. But again, I mean, when the dot-com boom was on, it started off with some companies that came along and were revolutionizing the sector. One of which particularly was there was a travel firm in the UK, lastminute.com, I think it was called. And they were revolutionizing the travel agency business because prior to that, everybody was going to the shop and looking through the brochures, and the travel agent was doing stuff. So when it started, there were legitimate businesses, but it got to the point by the late 90s, it was just silly. Anybody and everybody was putting a website up to sell stuff. And crypto's the same. When we started crypto in May with the beta testers in 2020, I think there were 3,000 tokens. And then when I did the webinar in October and saying I thought it would be the best investment of your lifetime, I think there was 6,000. I read the other week there's 35 million now. Anybody that can create a blockchain has created a blockchain. And then when you look at the job situation in the US, you look at the real rate of inflation around the world, you look at the PE ratios of some of these stocks are insane, Nvidia particularly, and Palantir. All the signs are flashing, but the true crash in the dot-com boom, for example, Amazon crashed at 95%, but not until 2002, 2003. So now at the moment, we're in that state where we're in an opportunity bubble situation. Is do we get out now and turn it all to cash and say, hey, like with Andy, I said, you made 85%, mate. Do you want to pull it all out? What do you want to do? No, let's keep going. But at 85%, it might keep going. He might be 150% by this time next year because nobody knows when the bubble is going to burst. One of the things going on at the moment is that in the US next year there are elections for the Senate. So Trump needs, by hook or by crook, the US stock market to be in a healthy state. Otherwise, the Republicans won't get, they will potentially lose the control of the Senate. So everything being done at the moment, and again, I've explained about stable coins and the impact on the dollar and treasuries and everything. Everything at the moment is going up. Everything's positive. And the other thing, from a geopolitical point of view, you've got Europe and the UK, which are in a complete mess and run by idiots, and it's all negativity and it's all about control, and you can't do this and you can't do that. And the USA is going, hey, take the shackles off. We're going to go for it. And we're going to go for or bust. So we'll see. Right, I've left Ashley very little time. I'm sorry, Ashley. I said I didn't have too much to talk about this morning,
That's
and
okay. It's good to hear you talk as well.
you wind me up, and off I go. Morning, Tobias. You were late. Right, I'll hand you over to